You know, for the longest time, the idea of bringing back extinct species was pure science fiction, right? Stuff you'd see in the movies. But what if I told you that science fiction is quickly, and I mean really quickly, becoming science fact? We're talking about de-extinction, and it's happening right now.
I mean, that famous line from Jurassic Park just nails it, doesn't it? It perfectly captures the heart of this entire debate. It's not just about whether we can do this, but whether we should. And that right there is the central tension we're going to dig into.
And yeah, that whole debate has officially left the Hollywood soundstage and walked right into the laboratory. A recent breakthrough has really forced the issue, turning this from a cool thought experiment into a very real, very urgent question. And get this, scientists have already taken a huge step. They've created mice that have woolly coats and metabolisms that are tweaked for the cold, all by using gene editing techniques inspired by actual mammoth DNA. Now, obviously, this isn't a mammoth, but it is a massive proof of concept. It shows the basic idea works, and it's a stepping stone toward much, much bigger things.
So you're probably wondering, how in the world are they actually pulling this off? Well, it turns out there isn't just one magic bullet for de-extinction. Scientists have a whole toolkit with 3 really distinct methods they're working with. Let's break those down.
Okay, so this table is basically your cheat sheet for the 3 main approaches. You've got backbreeding, which is kind of like turning back the clock on domestication. Then there's cloning, which is all about making a perfect genetic copy. And finally, genetic engineering, where you're actually editing the DNA of a living animal to give it ancient traits. Each one works differently and needs different things to even be possible. First up, backbreeding. Think of this one as reverse engineering evolution. Scientists take a modern animal, like a cow, and over many, many generations, they selectively breed them to bring back those wild traits from their extinct ancestors, like the aurochs. No crazy gene labs involved, just very, very careful breeding. Then you've got cloning. You've probably heard of this one, right? Like Dolly the sheep. The idea here is to take a perfectly preserved cell from an extinct animal, pop its nucleus into the egg of a close relative who acts as a surrogate mom, and voila, you get a genetic copy. But here's the kicker. You need perfectly intact cells. And for most extinct animals, that's pretty much impossible to find. And finally, we have genetic engineering. This is the big one, the method behind the woolly mammoth project. It's like a biological find and replace function. Scientists use amazing tools like CRISPR to go into the DNA of a close living relative, say an Asian elephant, and edit it to include the genes from a mammoth, genes for things like a woolly coat or cold-resistant blood. Okay, so we've got the tools. We know the how. But that naturally leads us to a much bigger question. Why? Why are we doing this? Well, the people who support this have some incredibly ambitious goals in mind. And this really is the question that drives this whole field. For the people working on this, it's not just about scientific curiosity. For them, it's about potentially solving some of the biggest problems our planet is facing. The arguments for de-extinction are, you have to admit, pretty compelling. Proponents think we could restore entire ecosystems by bringing back key species. The most famous example, of course, is bringing back woolly mammoth-like animals to the Arctic. The idea is they would restore the grasslands, which could help keep the permafrost frozen and actually help fight climate change. It's a huge idea. Now, here's a really crucial point you need to understand. For most of these projects, the goal isn't to create a 100% perfect copy of an ancient animal. It's to create what they call a functional proxy. Basically, an animal that can do the same job in the ecosystem as the one that went extinct, like an elephant that can tolerate the cold and act like a mammoth. All right, but, and this is a huge but, this is where the story gets really complicated. For every incredible potential benefit, there is a thorny, complex, ethical problem just waiting in the wings. This path is anything but simple. And we're not talking about small speed bumps here. These are deep philosophical questions about our role in nature, our responsibility for what we've already broken, and the immense power we're starting to wield over the future of life itself. So, one of the biggest criticisms is that de-extinction is what's known as a technological fix. It's this idea that we're using flashy, exciting tech to treat a symptom, species going extinct, while totally ignoring the root causes, like us destroying their habitats. It kind of lets us off the hook for changing our own behavior, right? And that leads right into this other thorny concept called moral hazard. Think about it. If extinction isn't permanent anymore, if we have a magic undo button, are we going to be as careful about protecting the species that are on the brink of extinction right now? Why save the rainforest if we think we can just bring back the animals later?
Now, to be fair, this is a huge point of contention. On one hand, critics are seriously worried that an undo button makes us lazy and complacent about conservation today. But on the other hand, proponents argue the exact opposite. They think that the incredible spectacle of bringing back a woolly mammoth could inspire a whole new generation to care about nature.
And then you get into some really deep, almost sci-fi territory with this question of artifact creation. Is a genetically engineered mammoth-elephant hybrid truly a wild animal, or is it just a biological machine, a man-made artifact that we built for our own purposes? Can something born in a lab ever really be called natural?
And believe me, the list of concerns keeps going. You have to think about the welfare of the surrogate mothers carrying these animals, and of the first few resurrected creatures who won't have parents to teach them how to be, well, a mammoth. And then there's just the sheer hubris of it all, the arrogance of thinking we can really control all the unintended consequences. So when you boil it all down, when you look past the incredible science and all the heated debates, what are we really talking about here? We're talking about a fundamental question about our role on this planet. What kind of nature do we actually want to live in?
See, de-extinction isn't just another tool in the toolbox. It represents a massive fork in the road for how we think about conservation. It's forcing us to choose between two very, very different visions for humanity's relationship with the natural world.
It really comes down to two camps. On one side, you have the respecting the wild view. This says our job is to step back, reduce our footprint, and let nature be nature. On the other side, you have the rambunctious garden view. This sees humans as active gardeners of the planet, using our technology to manage, repair, and even design ecosystems. And de-extinction? It's planted firmly in that second camp.
And so that's where we are. We're standing on the edge of a new era, with powers that our ancestors could have only described as godlike. De-extinction isn't a matter of if anymore. It's a matter of when and how. So the real question, the one for all of us to think about, is this. Now that we're holding the pen, what kind of story are we going to write in the book of life?